Hi, Mike Kennedy with you. Uh, Artificial intelligence, digital truth, and the greatest forger that ever lived. I'm going to use this uh, case I read about to kind of lead into this idea about artificial intelligence, digital truth, and the dangers that can be involved in it. But to do this, we're going to talk about a person who forged documents that had to do with the Mormon Church. Okay, so uh, I read some things, and some people consider this guy to be the greatest forger or con man that ever lived. He would get uh, he would create documents and sell them to the Mormon Church. They were signed by important people. You know, uh, he would uh, he would procure paper that was the right age, right? He would, which you'd be surprised how easy that is to do. Just go find a place that has old books, look for the date, and rip the pages out, and you've got paper that's can be the right date for what you want to do. And that's important. Sometimes simply with an ultraviolet light, you stick it on paper. You can tell if there's optical brighteners in there, and if they're present in paper, a document that's not really that's old, it's a phony. So he was smart enough to use the correct paper. In the ink, I came out here because I was be quiet in the house with the birds. Now there's a dog barking, but I'm going to continue on. I don't care. So he even takes some of the paper and burns it and gets the carbon ashes and puts them in the ink with the idea that someone tries to carbon date the paper or do some chemical tests on the paper or the ink, they're going to find that it dates to the right period. So that's pretty smart. So then he's like, he has to be able to concoct stories and create documents that are going to be accepted by others, by these people in the Mormon Church. And so, he's been doing these forgeries for a while. And he contacts the church authorities saying that he has this document that will prove that the Mormon Church is just an entire scam. And it's written by supposedly the founders or, someone. But this is going to be a bombshell type document. And of course, they want to get a hold of it. They want to see it. So they first want to examine it, okay? So they get a copy of it, right? And they take it to their records, the hall of records, that they have. They go other places too, and they're able to match these signatures on this document with other signatures, known good signatures that they have in their collection and other collections. So it basically proves you've got paper the right age, you get the signatures that match, the writings, everything about it, except the content. But come to find out, here's the thing that's so bizarre. This guy had been doing it so long, they were always comparing the signatures on his new documents with ones he had created in the past. So in other words, they found, I'm not going to say it's Brigham Young or whoever the person was, Smith or whatever, but, Frederick von Hopper or something, they've got this name and they want to know if it's true, and they go and actually use his other documents with that name. So of course, the names match perfectly. And so you get in this big conundrum of, well, your sources say it's true, so it must be true. Well, somehow he's found out, and I don't know exactly what happened to him, but he's sold tons of these documents to the church or to other people in the church or to museums or whatever. So he's made quite a bit of money on this, and the documents are kind of all over the place too. So, but anyway, okay, now you could see that for him to carry out this plan to create his own truth, we'll say, to create his own set of facts, he had to carefully plant these documents in other places so the signatures on his new document would match the other documents. So you can imagine, maybe this took him years and years to do. I mean, maybe just some of the documents were found by people somewhere. Maybe there were documents that weren't purchased, so they wouldn't have suspected them to be perhaps erroneous, you know? And so, but anyway, he's created this whole body of work that they're looking at and saying that it's true. It would be kind of like finding stone tablets and finding there was an 11th commandment in it. And you compare the writing, you know, you get something else God wrote, so you say it must be true. Well, but in fact, they're both forgeries. So now we go to the digital age, okay? And with artificial intelligence, we're going to pick on this because artificial intelligence, at least I've been experimenting with it a lot. And it can be kind of fanciful, you know, kind of creative, or you can set some of them to be extremely accurate, supposedly. So, you know, I've been doing the more accurate stuff, okay? So, again, now, if I want to, well, let's just talk about some of the problems with this first. One of the problems I've seen. There was a show we were watching Scarecrow and Mrs. King. I'm sitting there watching it, and I said, oh, this woman that is the grandmother, the mother of the star, it's not Kate Jackson, I forget what her name was, but she was one of the Charlie's Angels, right? That actress, the one that plays her mother, was the mother on My Three Sons. And my wife says, no, she couldn't be. There was no mother in My Three Sons. So I go on Bing, I'm doing Bing, which I've kind of liked it because it has sources, so you can check the sources. So I ask it, and Bing says, no, it isn't. You're wrong. The woman who played the mother was this Charlie's Angels person. And I'm like, wait a second. So it's misunderstood. It doesn't realize that a grandmother is also a mother. So I rephrase the question. They've given me the actress name saying, no, so-and-so was a person that played on My Three Sons as the mother in the later series. You know, he gets married near the end of the series. And this Charlie's Angels woman is the mother on this show. And they forget the grandmother slot. So I take that actress's name and I say, oh, did so-and-so appear on My Three Sons in Scarecrow and Mrs. King? And sure enough, it says it did. She was in all the episodes. So, but you see, the thing didn't understand the distinction that a mother could be a grandmother too. So what they understand can be very limited. So you've got to make sure you phrase them good. But now we're going back to this idea of truth, okay? This guy had to take years to plan all these documents and have these things in all these different places so he could make some really good money selling these forgeries. So, but now we're in the digital age. We don't need to do all that work. When we have, people talk about low information voters. Well, we just have low information people, period. They just get something and they believe it. Or they might do a surface check and believe it. But again, okay, we have this fact that we're checking, and we'll just say, was Maine part of Canada once? Okay, we'll say that, and if we want to present that Maine was part of Canada once, we don't have to go and alter, all of Encyclopedia Britannicas and libraries and all the written documents. We just have to provide some sites that are supposed to be true to have this false information in it. So when you check it, it says, oh yes, Maine was part of Canada once. Here are the 3 references. And sure enough, you could check those 3 references and you go there and it says, Maine was part of Canada once. So, I mean, you sit there and think, oh, Maine was part of Canada once. Well, maybe not. what have they been using for the basis of the digital truth? The answer to the question. What have they used for resources? And are those resources actually true? Because again, now we're in the digital age and it's so easy. Someone in an afternoon could create 20 sites that would parrot some information that they wanted parroted back when someone asked a question, and it would be there. Now, of course, anyone who knew history or wanted to dig a little deeper would say, wait a second, this is junk. This isn't true. Look, there's nothing, and they find out the sites were created all in one afternoon and all these different things. And, with some more rigorously look into it, they would determine that this was all a big setup, and all of these sites that were referenced were fabricated solely for the purpose of creating a digital truth, a virtual truth that's completely different than reality. And now, someone would say, well, who would be stupid enough and do that? Well, a lot of people are. And, I got to pick on Don Lemon because, my goodness, he's gotten demoted to this morning show. The ratings have taken a kind of a dive when he's there. He actually had to be off for a couple of days. The ratings went up. He got it back on. The ratings went back down again. And he's sitting there with his woman. He's on this, I don't know what, if you call it a panel or whatever, but he has this, the co-host, the woman, and the guest is a woman. And he sits there, they're talking about this woman, and I'll make up because I don't remember the particulars. This woman, she's a politician, and she's 50 years old. And Don Lemon he says, well, women aren't in their prime. She's not in her prime. And the women are like, what? Oh, he says, you can check it on Google. Women aren't in their prime at 50. And it's like, oh my goodness, what's the matter with this guy? If I wanted to end Don Lemon's career, I would hypnotize him somehow or trick him into saying this thing on national, hardly anyone's watching, but still, national TV, and blur up something so stupid that he just Googled, and he went with the first thing. And he didn't understand. They might have been talking about fertility. They might have been talking about physical strength. They might have been talking about this, that. But they probably weren't talking about whether a 50-year-old woman could do a job a politician could do. That probably wasn't in the thing. But, low information guy, he goes there, he reads it, and he spouts it. And I gotta think that it took them a while, but that was kind of the nail in the coffin. After he said that, it was over. It was just going to take a little time because it's like, this guy's supposed to be so good and so popular, and they get rid of him. But again, this is this idea that in this case, he said he Googled it. He probably just went with the first answer, and it probably said women are not at their prime at age 50. He probably wrote in, is a woman in her prime at age 50? And the Google fact said, no, women are in their prime from 18 to 35 or something, you know what I mean? But again, what were they talking about? Again, in their prime for having children, in their prime for doing athletic competitions, in their prime for winning the Nobel Prize, or all these different things that could have been quite a bit different. And so he says this thing, and it's just like, oh, but see, this is going to happen more and more as we can change digital history quite easily. We can't change easily archaeology because it's there. We can't change books and encyclopedias easily because they're there, but, they're disappearing. I mean, a lot of people will say, well, why would you get a cookbook? You can just look it up on the internet. Why would you get a book about anything? You could download the book and read it, but why not just ask Google, ask this. And it's like, it's kind of this, it's a perfect solution to intellectual laziness. So that's what I got to say. The danger here with artificial intelligence and people looking for information on the internet is that the landscape, the references can all be fabricated. They can all be adjusted. They can all be skewed. I mean, I'll never forget that the first time it made quite a bit of news when they caught one of the premier fact-checking places, was it Scopes or something like that, actually lying about something. They actually came out and had a bold-faced lie that was slanted for political purposes. So it was like, well, you can never believe that site again, but it was pretty bad. And so once you can't trust sources on the internet, where are you going to go? That's what people want to do. People want instant answers, and they want to follow along in the line with other people, want to do what's popular, want to do this, want to do that, and they're just walking down the same path that everybody else is walking down, and it's the wrong path. It's the wrong information. And I guess we got to be really, really careful now, because we got to understand, you saw this a while ago with the internet too. People didn't realize for a while that anyone with any crazy idea in their head could present and create a really professional looking website. And people would think, oh, this looks professional. This guy must be right. There must be other people who believe this. This must be reliable information, when really it's like, gee, the internet still is, you got to remember, it's the largest source of misinformation there's possibly out there. Is it a source of real information, true information? Yes, but it's also misinformation too, and there's so many things that are, it's different when you're looking for pure factual information, like what's the name of the moon, or something like that. But then again, people could, weave around there and say, oh yeah, it was called this once. They're going to, give you this whole history, and maybe adjust some of that as they're going along to kind of slant you, for some reason, into looking at this supposed fact that's either true or not in a different light. So my advice to you is, don't believe everything you see on the internet. Be careful of artificial intelligence. Be careful of people who say that they read it on the internet. It's true, that they're saying it on TV and ending their careers with it. I mean, it's just crazy and bizarre. So going forward, we have to watch out, because now information, we've seen huge amounts of censorship in the digital landscape, and we're going to see more of it. But we're also going to see the idea of the introduction of a history that never existed, the introduction of facts on different sites that are just not true. And they'll provide all the necessary basis for anyone to come out and make a specific claim about anything. And again, surface-wise, it's going to look like it's true, but it's not going to be true at all. Bye.